Cool. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We'll let you go ahead with your introduction, Daniel.
Yeah, sure. Thank you everyone for coming, everyone in here and everyone on Zoom. My name is Samuel Uluwadarami. I'm the graduate assistant for the Maverick Diversity Institute. The Maverick Diversity Institute, we organize and we host events when it comes to like topics on equity, inclusion, and diversity. So we host those events over the semester and over the academic year. And if you attend 4 of those events, you come meet us and you can get a certificate at the end of the academic year, just showing and telling that you attended those events. So today, this is the first session we're going to be doing for the academic year. And today is going to be all about students support services. We have Rosalin and we have Liz. Rosalin is the director of Student Access. Liz is the director of the Women's Center, and they're going to be talking about student support services and what resources you can get locally and federal on campus. So I'm going to leave it up to them.
Thank you. Can you activate our captioning? Thank you.
There we go. Perfect. Well, hello again. I'm Rosalin Cobb. I'm the Director of Student Access, and I'm happy to be here with y'all today. I feel like it's looking at the computer and then looking at you over there, Peter.
It'll take us a second to get the full hang of it, but I'm Liz Steinborn-Gourley, Women's Center Director, and also excited to be here with you all this afternoon. So we are going to, let's see, do you want to highlight the day?
So we're going to talk about how money matters and just untapped resources today. So we're going to go over a few different things. We're going to first play an activity called The Price is Right, Food Pantry. We'll talk a little bit about budgeting. We'll talk about bridge to benefits. We'll talk about some employment options, emergency resources, money saving tips, and also we'll talk a little bit about financial aid and what are some ways to use that money as well today. And a couple of extra creative things. So keep them creative hats on until the end of today, or the end of today's session.
All right, so we're gonna start with The Price is Right. So I taken like 8 different items, and so if you want to put in the chat, if you want to write a list on the side of your piece of paper, but keep a note of what your best guess is, and you know, for our purposes, don't be Googling the answer.
Yes. Think about when you go to the grocery store yourself.
Yes. So these are a couple of kind of staple pantry items. So how much would you guess 1 bottle of olive oil costs?
Yes, either y'all in person, or I also see the chat box, so we can see any chat box responses.
It's a great value option, so I'm gonna say $3 or $4. If it was a name brand, maybe 6.
All right.
Okay, I see $3 in the chat box. I see $5 as well in the chat box.
I'd say $5.
$5.
Okay. Okay. All right. Nice broad strokes. So a bottle of great value extra virgin olive oil at Walmart is $4.55 as of today. So good guesses. Everybody's in the range. Good, good. We'll see how we go with the rest.
Y'all cook a little bit, okay.
The next thing, how much for 1 can of beefaroni? This isn't the family size, just, you know, shout them out. $1.25, $1, $1,
$2.50.
$2.50. All right. 99 cents. 1 can of beefaroni, and this was, I think, at Hy-Vee, is 99 cents. So good guesses, everyone.
Yeah.
Next item is a package of chicken breasts. How much would this was Cobb was my source for this price. So how much for a package of chicken breasts with 2 $10?
Okay.
$2.
$2.50.
4.
6, 4, 5,
Okay.
$4.99. Chicken's hard, right? It's hard to guess because if you've got tenders, they're extra. If you've got skin and bones, they're a little cheaper. So, but all good guesses. This particular package of Cub Foods is listed as $5 each. How much for a half gallon of milk?
That's like $2, $3.
$2, $2. You said what?
$1.50.
$1.50.
All right, good guesses. $1.99 in this, again, Cobb brand milk. $1.99 for a half gallon. They can range. Sometimes it's on sale for $1.27, right? Sometimes it's a little higher depending on the brand. What about for a bag of fresh salad mix? So this is spring mix for this example, but I feel like Dole prices are pretty consistent.
$2.
$2,
$50.
$3. Anybody else? Any of our viewers at home?
Oh, $3.
$3. All right, $3.49. A sad salad I toss every. I buy it. I'm well meaning. Good guesses, everybody. So $3.49. How about for a pound of, or 2 pounds of rice? For a bag of rice, how much would we expect to pay?
No.
$1?
$2.
$2?
Say $3.
$3? All right, depending on where you shop, right? You can get a pound of rice at the dollar store for $1. This particular rice, I think, was Cobb. Cobb was the one giving me the prices today. Was $2.99. So $3 for this 2 pound bag of rice.
Should got that rice last night. I got a $6.99 one at IV.
See, IV gets you on the pantry items.
Don't they? Okay.
All right, how about for a box of cereal? This isn't family size. I did go with name brand, but how much would you pay for a box of cereal?
I'm gonna go with $4.
$4?
$4 to $5.
$4 to $5? $4? Those are my guesses too, but this one's $2.89. So Life Cereal at Cobb is on sale today. No, it wasn't a sales price, but it was listed a little more affordably than I expected as well. All right, and this is our last item for today. How much for a box of bakery cookies? And again, this was Cobb. So this would be like the plastic shell that you get in the bakery section next to the meat, depending on which Cobb you're at.
We're not too far from the donuts.
Not too far. I guess it's by produce at the Midtown or the
$4.99.
$5, $4.99,
Say $3.
$3. All right, $4.99. Right on the money.
Look at you.
What about cookies?
I was there like, just the.
I know, but I have to have a conversation with myself, like, do you want $5 for the cookies? Not how much you want to spend on these for a day. Thank you all so much for playing The Price is Right. So this all together was $26.88 worth of groceries. And it was what, 8 items. The Maverick Food Pantry gives out almost these identical items every week. And so if you are not familiar, I strongly encourage you to keep that in mind, that you can go online. It's just like Instacart, maybe without the pictures, but you go online, you select the items that you know that you'll eat, that you want for the week, and you put in your order, and then the next day you can pick it up, as long as you get your order in by midnight the night before. And then you can also order in advance. Now the challenge has been a little bit that the orders get full. And so it's good to, if you know you need groceries for the week, this can save you a pretty significant amount of money, even if you still go to the grocery store and fill in. Maybe you want a different kind of potato, or you want a certain kind of drink that they're not offering at the pantry that day. But I did want to let folks know who are unfamiliar that there are fresh bakery items, and those are just out in the open. You don't have to pre-order those. There have been whole cakes. There's been whole boxes of donuts. And so those are all available to students. Just show up and take what you need. They're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 to 1 Monday and Wednesday, and then 10 to noon for pickup on Friday. And they also include household supplies like toilet paper, laundry pods, dish soap, specialty items like rice wraps, gluten-free noodles, juice, tea, coffee, yogurt, cheese. This is all for free and all available to our students. The last thing a student can do is to be successful is be hungry. And so if there's a way that we can help you get access to groceries, we want to do that. And so thanks for playing the Price is Right. I was gonna get a bag from Megan. It's her off-campus. We didn't coordinate it, but we'll hook you up with a sweet prize for participation, and it's knowing that Maverick Food Pantry's here. And I have some stickers for those folks who are in person. Karkovsky 142 is the location of the food pantry that we have on campus. Any questions about the food pantry?
Is that a different one from the one that's at that little church?
It is a different one, yeah.
Yep.
So that's a really good question. So that kind of bridges us into the next slide. And so these are some other resources off campus and on campus. So off campus is Campus Covered, and that's at the little white church, Crossroads Community Church, just behind the Performing Arts Center. They're open Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sorry, I didn't edit this. Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then on Tuesdays, they have buck a lunch. So it's $1 for a lunch. It's a hot lunch. And then you can pick up groceries and incidentals as well. And so there's no, like, we don't compare notes. Like if you go to the Maverick Food Pantry on campus on Monday, and then on Thursday, you go to Crossroads because you need a couple other items, there, you can absolutely do that.
And you can really stock up at all of these different places to set you up so that you don't have to use, you know, some of your own personal finances to get groceries. And sometimes, even at Campus Covered, I think one year I saw lobster, because you know, they did connections with the different restaurants and food places in the community. So you might get lucky sometimes. You never know. And then they also have bread, like how we have our bakery items out. They also have bread just for grabbing those in the main office, like in the main entrance when you're upstairs. We also have a few other places in the community. So there's Echo Food Shelf. This is free to people with blue Earth County addresses. So if you're a student or if you live off campus and you have, whether it's your residential hall dorm address or your apartment address, you can qualify or you can get access to Echo Food Shelf. There is a little bit more of a process to do that one, a little bit of an intake, and then and you have to make an appointment right with COVID protocols as of now. And then another thing on campus, just like the Maverick Food Pantry is on campus, we also have Swipe Out Hunger Meals request, which is offered in the University Dining Center. And so there's a form where you fill it out, and within 48 hours, they'll let you know if you were able to get a meal, and it goes kind of right to your Mav card, and you can get a meal in the dining center. This is an initiative that Sodexo and possibly student government as well kind of put together to provide, you know, another meal source for students while they're on campus, and maybe they're not here every day, but they're here hungry a day. So these are just a couple of different resources in the community and on the university community. Yep.
Of course, I have a question about that. With the Swipe Out Hunger Meal request, is that being charged to the student account, or how does that work necessarily as far as funding? Because I'm sure they want to get the money, or they're just letting students just request it.
I don't know how like the before process works. I feel like at one point I saw an email about donating, but I don't know how the before works. I just know like the after. And the request form is actually pretty minimal. It literally just has, I can show the link too, but you click on there and it brings you to like the Sodexo's catered website, and then the student just puts in their information. Like I heard a student the other day was like, oh yeah, I got my Swipe for Hunger request, you want to go to the dining center. And so I don't know. And then it didn't have a cap on the website. I did not see how many meals you can get. So as of now, probably not a cap, but shoot, it's an option. Get you a meal, and then you stay in there long enough the whole day, you can get a couple meals. Just kidding. I don't know what the rules are, but no, you can definitely access that and get access to a bunch of different meal options while you're in there. So Swipe Out for Hunger is on the MSU website to get there, and yeah, just to have students fill it out and they can get access to that.
And it doesn't get charged back to the student. They've done some drives. I think it's foundation funded kind of. Yeah, and then there's a question in the chat. Is anyone eligible to go for the Maverick Food Pantry and for Swipe Out Hunger? You need probably your STAR ID and password to register for both of those things. For Campus Covered, I know that
they still want to look at your student ID to document that as well. to determine if they're a student or not. So make sure that you have your math card with you so that they can write down that information at their, like at the beginning of intake. It's really quick. It's not a hard process at all. It's just how they record the students coming in and out. So they do want the math card.
And then for Echo Food Shelf, that you just need an address. And so you don't have to be, you don't have to have citizenship, you don't have to have a social security number, you don't have to have any of those things. There are some limitations, like it's 10 pickups in a year, or there's some like cap to it, but it absolutely is available, and there's no like, there's no citizenship requirement for it, which I think is important for our students to know as we're serving our international students and as we're serving undocumented folks. Just be mindful of that as well.
So, budgeting. This is something that myself, and especially when I was a student, we all struggle with, and even past being a student, this is an area. And so today I just wanted to briefly talk about a couple of different ways to help get you to a place where you start to think about budgeting. And then I also, on the next slide, I have like a template that I created when I was a student, and it helped me through to the point that I could understand my finances better. And then I ended up making an Excel spreadsheet. But just to go into just some basic forms, right? There's an infinite amount of different budgets, but some of the ones that I saw a little bit more common and then I see other people use, there's a traditional budget, right? You use a Word document, Excel, paper, notes in your phone, whatever the case, however you like to document and write information, use whatever format makes the most sense. And literally just list out your income and list out all of your expenses. And so on the slide, and there's also a handout of just a template here in person that I show the income is and what all the different expenses. So on the top, you see the income, like maybe it's MSU money, maybe it's babysitting, and then your bills, listing out all your expenses. And that's just a way to have a better idea. We can go back to the page or the slide before. Just to really see what's coming in and what's going out in terms of your finances. Just because some people, I know I was a student, I just, you know what, I'm not gonna look at my bank account, I'm gonna just swipe my card and hope for the best. If I go negative, I go negative. If I don't, whoo, I did budgeted correctly, or I was able to spend my money and not spend it all. And that's a little stressful. And so you don't want to do that. So with the traditional budget, just listen to income expenses, you at least have an idea of what's happening. And then maybe you'll start to see that you got leftover money. With the traditional one, that leftover money, you kind of do whatever you do with that extra money. Maybe it's your going out, or maybe it's for your savings account. But that's just a traditional budget. Listing your income and listing what all your bills are. And that includes Netflix and all the other subscriptions. Put those on there, because the little $5, $10 will add up real quick. Another one is the envelope system or the cash only budgeting. Some people work well with cash and they got to pull it out. So you set aside a certain amount. This is the cash that you have. You put, maybe it's $20, maybe it's $40, maybe it's $10, whatever you can, pull that out. And that's what you use this week. Don't use your card. Your card is just for your bills. Use just your cash for spending. And that just helps you, not use any extra money, because it's real quick to swipe a card. Oh, I can just go to this restaurant real quick, or oh, I can just go buy this and I can buy that. With your cash, you can see literally it dwindling, whereas the card, you don't see those numbers dwindle. Not at all, especially when you want to check your app. So that's just another form of doing it. I have actually had to use this system too, because I was getting swipe happy. And I started taking out cash just to help me, or maybe if you're going out, you start off small. Maybe if you're going somewhere, an event or an outing, and you can't figure out how to save your money the whole week, you can start for that day. I only want to spend $40 in this setting, so I'm gonna pull out $40, and this is all I can use. I cannot use my cards. So if you can't do it the whole week to budget, try it in small settings so that you're not overspending as well. And then another one, there's the 50, 30, 20 budget, where you are looking at your budget a little bit more, intentionally. 50% of your income goes to your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20% for your savings. This definitely helps prepare you, especially with saving earlier, because you definitely want to start as young as possible, just so that your savings in the future can grow, or you're ready for literally a rainy day if you lost your job, that you know you have some income in your account, that you know that it's always growing. I know some students don't have savings accounts, and so this is one of those that if you do have a little bit of excess money on your hand, that it's not all going to your income or not all going to expenses, try to save a little bit and break it off into that way. And so there's, like I said earlier, with the traditional, there's so many different ways, like Word, Excel. Also, there's a lot of different online resources. There's different tools and apps, so you can use Personal Capital, which is a website, or You Need a Budget, or Mint. These are just different websites that some people would like to use to make those budgets if they don't want to create their own budget themselves. Because sometimes that part in itself can be overwhelming on how to create a template. I know that I get really focused on symmetry and creativity and looks and all that stuff. That does the job for you, right? So whatever the case may be, just think about, start off with your income and your expenses. And from there, you just want to look at your income, because I know it's trying times, but and then we have copies of a budget example, and then also if you all want the example, it's we could email that as well.
You Need a Budget is like the envelope system, but in an app, and it's something that my husband and I, as we joined our bank accounts together, were like, maybe this is a good idea. Because I was the kind of person who would spend until there was no more money left, and I'd be like, oh, when do I get paid again? And then my partner was not that way, and so, for like marital bliss, we chose You Need a Budget. For students, it's free. Once you graduate, then they want your money. Go figure.
So either keep staying in school or get you a university. Yeah, I'm just kidding. So yeah, that's the example that I provided. Like I said, this is the one that I made for myself when I was in college. And this is what got me through it. It was the DoorDash, the babysitting, and I just wrote all my bills and the personal expenses, like going on, whatever the case may be. So this is an example. If you want this, feel free to just let me know or take the extras that are in this room.
All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about some benefits that exist through the state and the feds. So the Bridge to Benefits is hosted by the Children's Defense Fund of Minnesota, and it is a very short assessment. So there's a lavender sheet for our people who are in person with 12 questions on it. That's how long the assessment is. It's a 12-question assessment, asks how much your income is, how many roommates do you have, who are you sharing expenses with, and then it generates a list of possible benefits you may qualify for, be eligible for, because so many programs are based on income, like a very specific income dollar amount. So energy assistance, that helps with your gas or electric. Supplemental nutrition assistance programs, SNAP is grocery money. Like, it's literally a debit card that you can take to the grocery store. Women, infants, and children is money for pregnant people. It's money for people with young kids to help supplement the grocery budget. Health insurance programs, school meal program. This is for people with children, childcare assistance, some early learning scholarships. So those are all for folks with kids. And then a couple of tax credits. Something that, as I've been working on this is a much more functional tool for our citizen folks. So our documented Social Security card holding members of our community. And that's not to say that there aren't other resources and benefits and tools we can dip into for other members of the community, but I do want to say that that's something to keep in mind with this particular assessment. And so it's 15 minutes. I'm happy to sit down with a student. We plug all this information into an online form. It tells you what you might qualify for and how you apply. It is not an application. It records no information until the very last screen if you want someone to reach back out to you and you want a referral for those resources. If people have kids who, whether they are US born children or they are born abroad, there are services and benefits that can help children. And so certainly that is something that I recommend for folks who maybe themselves aren't documented, but their kids are, that we can work with this program as well. So like I said, anyone who's work study eligible, so on your FAFSA, if work study is a benefit that you an opportunity that you qualify for, this could absolutely provide some grocery money and probably utility money, but that's a finite pool of resources, so sometimes that runs out. And then if folks are grad assistants, and I say that because we know that a grad assistant makes $10,000 a year, which is like not a ton of money. And that qualifies people for SNAP. And so that grocery money I have seen for students that I've met with for this assessment range anywhere from $140 a month to upwards of $600. And so it is totally worth the 15 minutes to determine if you can get a couple $100 a month to help alleviate some of those out-of-pocket expenses. It's a way, it's like, I guess I like to think of it as another grant, or as another opportunity to just help you get through school with one less thing that you're worried about.
Okay, so this one, I would definitely want to, it's a little bit, oops.
Oh. I don't know why I put this off. Hang on
1 second.
Sorry to our online.
Okay, there we go, y'all. So this one, this is gonna be a little bit more of us talking together and using our brains and getting creative. I also have some things as well that how can you use your financial aid. So this is definitely more so related to students who do qualify, whether it is through FAFSA, maybe the Minnesota Dream Act, residents of some sort. So with financial aid, how do you usually use your funds? I would like to hear a couple of examples either in the room or in the chat box.
I used to use mine to buy airfare between semesters because I went to school out of state.
Airplane tickets to get home. Oh yeah, computer. I have to say yes.
What about rent? This money for this.
Used to pay your rent, okay. What about anyone else?
Stick to
Tuition, definitely, but definitely, you know, the first one, grants, tuition, because it goes through first, or loans. How else have people used their financial aid funds?
How do you gas if I to get to and from work?
Gas from to and from work. I use it for all kinds of things I shouldn't have. I would say the same.
Oh yeah, tattoos, trips,
Shoes.
liquor, whatever, you know.
That spring break trip that I probably should have saved money
A
for.
car, maybe more responsible with some of those things I mentioned.
Oh, yes. So yeah, financial aid, right? So with it, you don't have to say what's down on the slide. So with financial aid, obviously it usually goes to tuition first. Go back.
No, right.
I was just talking because this is more of a conversational piece. So it usually goes to tuition first, right? So with financial aid, students who are awarded that, they get grants, loans, sometimes they have scholarships, and sometimes it's private loans options, and sometimes it is work study. So work study, at least at MSU, if a student is awarded that, usually that means they are Pell eligible and their family, it used to be about $6,000 or less is usually work study. It could have increased, I have to double check that number. That is an on-campus job, and students can use that to either pay their tuition or they can use that. It goes directly to them. Some institutions do, they don't do it the same way we do, but we pay directly to the students. But with all those different things, right? You have your tuition, you have your room and board if you live on campus. And so that's what financial aid first goes to. But if students who have any extra access money, a lot of us will get to know students who after their first year, they move off, right? Then there's this thing called a disbursement check. And a lot of people like, that's how I got through life, was that disbursement check. Now mine was loans. My disbursement checks came with the price, but I know some students that get free, their extra money is grants. But when people factor in your cost of attendance in your school, it doesn't just limit at tuition. It doesn't just limit at room and board. They're also thinking about your living, right? Room and board on campus also means rent, living elsewhere off campus. So they're thinking about that when they're making your budget. They're also thinking about, okay, you need books and supplies. Students here on campus get the $600 if they don't have an unpaid. If they have no balance, then they have access to getting their textbooks and charging it to their account. If they got any kind of balance, they will not get that. And so they're thinking about your books, but some people don't buy their books at the university. Some people do have an unpaid balance. And so they're thinking about your books. But then they're also thinking about what do you need for school, right? Your laptop, they're thinking about your laptops, the other equipment. So people are in art, and they have to get a whole bunch of other things. Anything that you would need for school and to live, they're also thinking about food. Your financial aid award package encompasses all of that. But so when you got that extra money, how do you use that? Probably not on a plane ticket to go to spring break, but maybe to home, right? And so using a lot of those budgeting things that we talked about earlier, really, I wanted to stress to connect those things together because, you know what, some of us, I only had one job. I tried a 2 job and it didn't work for me. I was, you know, I almost got fired, so I quit. But, but no, so sometimes that is income that is there, or that is money there that is to help you as a student and to be successful. It's just, let's get a little bit smart about that. Use that budget, use that money. If you know you're getting a disbursement check, right? Some people have that unpaid balance that can get their textbooks, but you get the money to you the next week. Make sure you use that money to go to the store to get your books. Or some students, I just worked with a student yesterday, she needed a new laptop, right? Her current one was breaking down and honestly, it was real slow. It took us forever to get through the meeting off of the laptop. But we looked at the financial aid and we saw what was left over and we saw that there was enough money for them to go to the bookstore to use that money to get those books. And so if you don't have to take everything out, don't take it out. But I know I took everything out because I absolutely needed it. And it definitely helps with rent, being able to do a lump sum for your rent. It's just that when you get your financial aid package, it's looking at all those things as you as a student. And sometimes some students hit their cap, maybe because they're an out-of-state student, maybe they've taken all their aid out. Every once in a while, you might have a little bit more room. So access your campus hub, access to student financial aid staff on campus, because sometimes they can work with you, especially if you do need a new laptop. Do you have that receipt? Maybe they can increase your budget a little bit. Maybe you do need rent. Maybe you live in somewhere that's really expensive, that's outside of the average that they you know, they kind of do it based off of an average and kind of give you a work package off of that. Maybe you have an expense that's way out of the norm that's related to school that helps your livelihood. And so think about all those different things. Think about what you need and or sit down with the student financial aid advisor, because they can, sometimes you have enough room for them to make some workarounds and figure out ways for you to be able to pay for school and to live at the same time. Because that's, you're not just going to school, you have to live, you got to survive, you got to make money. You have all of these things to worry about in your life and school. And so the money is there to help you. And so it is, you know, and so I highly suggest if you ever find a student that's in that predicament where they don't, you know, it's time to get creative with their funds. It's time to get creative, you know, have them meet somebody in the student financial aid office and see what they can do or to see what's going on. I sat down in a couple of meetings and they really do a great job with helping students and figuring out ways to help them. But remember to go back to that budget so that you're not just spending your money on all crazy things and now you're $30,000 in debt and all you did was spend it on trips and stuff like that. But so that's just, I wanted to touch a little bit based on how to use your financial aid funds because there's a lot of ways to use it that help support you while you're in school.
Can I just do a quick plug? If you are work study eligible, get that job. The Women's Center is hiring desperately, so we got a lot of people. Ken, did you?
Yeah, I was gonna add too, for some of our students who are like, yeah, I really don't want to work that job or have work study, but you also know that you can switch over to a loan if you need to, so.
Oh, yes.
So just a little note, some of our students are like, hey, I really don't want to work because I'm trying to figure things out, that they could take their money back and switch over to one. We sent the concept for them. So
Yes, stay in communication, and then that opens, so if you didn't qualify for work study, there are folks who are turning that money back. Well, that's a pool that the feds give to the school to use for student employment. And so if someone gives theirs back and says, I'd rather have this loan because I don't want to work, that means that you might be eligible for it as an undergrad to apply for work study opportunities.
you can just call the campus hub and ask to add you to do it.
Yes. And there's a lot of those little hidden things that are not necessarily hidden, they're just not always right there in your face in terms of information. Yes, work study, like everyone has said, get on the work study wait list. Stay in constant communication with them. Just so that, because you learn about a lot of different things. Get on a work study list because not everybody wants a job. You can send your work study money back. I will say that it does turn into a private loan usually. And so, but then there's also multiple ways to access that private loan. There's a thing called a Parent Plus loan that is a loan that's still through the federal student government. It is considered private, but you log into the same website you do with your FAFSA. And it has to be a parent or an adoptive parent, a biological or adoptive parent that has to fill that out. And what they do is, and that's one of those options that you usually get money. Either it's a loan in your parent's name, it works kind of like a student loan for them, or you get denied and you have access to additional unsubsidized funding. Now, sometimes students do hit this max of their aid, and so sometimes it's not the full amount. Usually it's somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 extra they can get first semester. But these are, like I said, these are a lot of those creative different ways to really tap into your money. And so if you have a student or you are a student and you're like, I don't really know what's going on with their account, like I said, send them to Campus Hub. You can tell them to come to Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, because a lot of us have seen a lot of very interesting and creative ways to get students funding with the funding that they already have. And then the next one, let's keep going on getting creative. So we're going to talk about some other creative resources and emergency options afterwards, but I want to hear. So we talked about budgeting, we talked about financial aid, talked about groceries. What are some ways that y'all have gotten creative to save money yourself? Or ways that you realize was a better option that works now that keeps you from overspending? I can go first. I use Instacart to buy groceries now because I love going down every single aisle at any store I go to, whether it's a grocery store, Target, Walmart. I will walk down every aisle and I will walk out of there with about $50 to $60 more than I needed to spend, sometimes $100. But with Instacart, I actually weighed out the benefit, like the costs and the pros and cons, and even with the service charge, I still ended up finding myself saving money because I'm only getting the food items I said that I needed to get. And then actually I sit there and I contemplate and I'm looking at it, I'm like, do I really need that item? Do I really need that donut? And then I delete it. And then I found myself sticking to my budget that I said that I can spend on food. I found that to be a way more useful tool than me just going, I have a list. I always have a list, but that list always gets doubled by some random things that caught my eye when I'm in the store. So that's one creative way that I've learned how to manage my money. Does anybody else have some unique thing that they've discovered in their life to save money? Ooh, shop online for Target and Walmart because I cannot go without. Yes, I feel you on draining your wallet. And shopping at Aldi. I love Aldi. I can get fresh fruit, I can get meat, I can get almost everything, and I'm walking out and it's only like $50. Whereas if I went to Cobb, I'm spending like
I feel like it's like beat the cash register at Aldi. I feel like a winner when I'm down and I'm like, ooh, look at all the stuff we got. Yeah, and then keep things like groceries, entertainment, fun, and gas and cash, and only use cash for those items so you don't overspend. That one is where I need to step into because, man, that drive-through has been tempting. Now that I'm back in the office, I just feel like when I got in my car, I better go through a drive-through. But you don't actually need to do that in order for the car to work. So something that I'm working on is like, here's the amount that I can actually spend. And when I'm down to the pennies and digging through the cushion in the seat to find more, I just, have to make my own coffee. So it's those things that I think are easy to, at least for me, to fall into, with expenses.
Yeah, and speaking of coffee, how many people love getting their Starbucks, Dunkin', or Caribou? Yep, I love, and I get a cold pressed, cold foam salted cream. It's real elaborate, right? That's about $4 or $5. And if I decide to get real crazy and get what's a tall? We're looking at $6, right? Or no, tall's the small one, but venti, there we go. That's looking at.
A sandwich or something, that's too.
Oh, yes, don't get nothing added to that.
Breakfast, it's balanced, right? Drink, sandwich.
Not easily, $10, $15 later, and every day, that don't add up. That's too much out of my budget. So something I did, because I tried to make my own coffee, I don't like it. It's not the same experience. It's an experience for me, and it don't work. But I just realized recently, which I should have known because I walk past all the time, you can get it at Aldi too and all the grocery stores. Starbucks has their cold brew in the bottle, and it's already ready, set to go. And it costs like $4.50, give or take. And it says that it has about 4 servings in that. I can kind of get that to almost be 5 servings, so that one bottle for me lasts 1 week of work. That's $5 for 1 week versus like 15 times 5, right? And so that was something that I had to get creative because I got a car, so I had to rebudget. And I was like, what do I have to, what can I cut out? And I was like, okay, it tastes like Starbucks. If it is Starbucks and I put it in a Starbucks cup, I'm drinking Starbucks. And so that was the way that I got creative to save my money. Consumer cellular, I see cell phone is really cheap for cell phone services, and you don't have to be old either. Look at that. How many people got an expensive phone bill?
One thing, mine's pretty minor, but all my morning alarms said save money on it. So when I wake up, that's the mindset of like, save money.
Hey, there you go. Sometimes having that mantra, that like consistent reminder, I think is a good idea.
Budget affirmations, love it.
Setting some goals for your money. I know that's where I struggle, right? Like if I don't have a goal of why I would be saving, or like I'm obviously hitting my obligations each month is on purpose. But having that goal in mind of like, okay, if I am gonna put money to savings, what is it going towards? Because if it's some like arbitrary future event, well, live in the now, I could get run over tomorrow, Again, marital counseling on your finances is really strongly encouraged because I live with someone who thinks very differently than that. But that can really be helpful. Like I know that my textbooks are averaging me $500 or $600 a month by semester. Then in October, after sticker shock is over from this August book buy, I can start tucking a little money away, knowing that I'm going to have to pay that in January again. And so that's something. I think too, here, one of the suggestions was advocating with companies for a better rate by calling. If you had a credit card, for instance, for a while, sometimes you can give, and you've been pretty consistent in your payments, you can give them a call and ask for a lower interest rate. And sometimes they give you that. Or say, hey, I got a pre-approval for this interest rate. Can you match it or do better? Or I'm going to switch companies, then they can help you there. It's time and spending time maybe advocating for your car insurance, that kind of thing.
Or even those late fees. So if you have a late fee, call, if you haven't been late before, or an overdraft fee. Or you're going like, hey, I haven't been late before, call the credit card company, say, I haven't been late before, I had a situation, go with me, can you please reverse that? And they typically do it once a year. And with your bank, depending on the bank, I know there's some personal experience, younger, not now, but with your bank, you give an overdraft fee, they typically do the same once a year, so. Those help,
man, you could have saved me years of money. Shoot. Me and Wells Fargo, we broke up. I was like, well, you take all my money, so bye-bye.
But yeah, no, tons of ways to get creative, and us staff and students, I feel like 2 heads are better than 1. If you know you're struggling with your budget, and talk to somebody that you feel comfortable with or that you trust on campus, and just talk it through. And, just like how right now we just did a think tank on different ways to get creative, don't be afraid to ask for help too, number one, and especially with trying to save for money. I feel like a lot of people, sometimes it's a pride thing, sometimes it's an embarrassment thing. Don't feel that way. You gotta advocate for yourself, and that also means your money and your bank account and being able to afford and life and live. And so talk to somebody and just brainstorm, because I don't know everything. I didn't think about what Ken's just mentioned. And so talk to one of us, talk to maybe your professor, you and your professor are real cool, or vice versa, or maybe even talk to your colleague, because we were all students once at some point and we struggled and busted it through. So yeah, that's just getting a little creative. But now we have a couple of different ways of other creative resources.
All right, so the emergency grant, so this is generally for folks who are Pell eligible, and some of our international students with a valid F1J1 status could be eligible for international student emergency assistance. These are for planned for expenses. So books aren't an emergency because we know generally we need a book. Tuition is not that emergency. Housing is not that emergency. But if something has come up that has caused you to not be able to afford those things, so for instance, you bust your ankle in May and all summer you're paying for that, so you don't have money for those books, then you come talk to us. We figure out, can we cover your rent so you can pay for your books because you spent all your book money on your ankle. So that's a convoluted way of saying it's these emergencies. Your laptop completely falls apart. You have a car repair that was unexpected. Medical bills, those types of things. You leave a violent relationship and need front money to put down on an apartment. There are so many different reasons, and so there are emergency grant advisors. So for international students, they should reach out to the County International Center. For our domestic students, there is like a huge list. I feel like
there's somebody sprinkled everywhere.
Everybody in diversity, equity, and inclusion is trained as an emergency grant advisor, and you meet with them so that we can help talk about some of these other resources and benefits that you could apply for additionally, but then help you get your materials together, because you have to show, some of the, you need some documentation to go with that. But this is an important resource and something to keep in mind when that unexpected thing comes up.
Oh yeah, and then also emergency shelters. We have a lot of students on campus, and some people don't think about this because you see them show up every single day, but some students are homeless, right? Things happen, just like some of the things that Liza mentioned in terms of those emergency things, and they're out of a house. There are a few places in the community like the Teresa House, Welcome In, and the Union Street Place. These are all places that are local within the community. Some of them are for women and children at the Teresa House, I believe, right? I think on the website, but I do know that these are different, definitely local places. Sometimes, maybe reaching out to a person, or maybe it's, seeing if there's an extra bed somewhere, or maybe it's at your friends, or maybe it's at related to campus. We've seen a lot of different things, but especially with emergency housing, definitely Teresa House, Welcome In, Union Street, and some students talking about that cash, going back to bridges benefits. Maybe they have qualify for Section 8, so if they fall, and they may have to go to these resources, they may be able to qualify. It does sometimes take 3 to 5 years to get something, but I've seen some students been able to access that resource before. So yes.
And the crisis of being without housing is sometimes so much that thinking about these things like that, if you're securing your housing, you're like, oh, that's nice. And then when the actual event happens where you need to find emergency shelter, come talk to any staff. We can, at the very least, we can be a person who can sit next to you while the search goes on to find somewhere to be, and just provide some emotional support through a challenging time. Yeah.
Something I learned over the summer while interacting with someone after hours, but if these places are closed, which a lot of them, they do close at 5 or 6 at the same time that we close. the Department of Public Safety does have vouchers, but you have to qualify for them, but that is an option. You can call them and let them know the situation, and they'll let you know if the student or the person is eligible for a voucher. If it's
Oh,
after
great.
hours.
That's really great, Kenneth. That's awesome. Thank you.
Another unique creative way to get money and access, or to get a job and access to money, is staffing agencies. This is something that I'm really starting to advocate for, because I have so many students that can't get a job. They're struggling, their hours get let go, and obviously they do want something better and more aligned with them. But staffing agencies are a great option when you're looking, one, you need money now, or on a quick turnaround, and you need a job and you just need something to help get you through. There are so many different, and there's obviously a staffing agency for everything. These ones are like Aerotech and Spirion. They definitely have a lot more, maybe like manufacturing, not necessarily manufacturing, but like warehouse jobs. So some of them are going to be a little bit labor. Some of them are maybe just kind of like fun.com, where people just go into a warehouse, fill up a box of different people's different like costumes or whatever. They have different companies where you can do stuff like that, but at least gets you a job and gets you money and you're able to work. And I've had a lot of students do that as an option. Especially when they cannot find a job and they're going through all these hiring processes and they're just not landing anything. And so I had a student who was able to do it for like a month and a half, because that was like the time period that contract was for. But sometimes they're 6 months, sometimes they're a year, sometimes they get renewed, sometimes they're just a few weeks. But I know that student was able to make it through because they were able to get a job through a staffing agency. And also, I know this also can be a resource for students who are also international. Because while they're in school, there's this thing called a CPT. I did not remember what that means full out, but that's the one that you can use while you're in school. And then they have OPT, which is optical practical training, is what they can use when they get out of school to get jobs. And the problem is a lot of the case, people, when they see that they're an international student, they think that they might want some type of visa to work there. And so a lot of those students don't get jobs and they can't get those experiences. Well, staffing agencies, that's a barrier that's not there as much, because they're trying to place people into jobs. And with these jobs, there are some staffing agencies that maybe you're an IT person. There's staffing agencies in the cities that are specifically for IT, maybe it's specifically for marketing. And you're getting real experience for a short, obviously sometimes it could be a short amount of time, it could be longer, but you can get real experience. I also think of this as an option for internships, because if you can't land an internship because you're not landing the interviews, but you find a staffing agency job through a job through one of these websites to get into another company, it's still skills. You're still getting these experiences, and you can use that as an internship. So many people get stuck with the fact that they can't get an internship. Honestly, my partner, that is how he was able to get a job, because he was an international student at one point, and so he's been able to work at, like, for my IT people, was able to work at 3M, work at Best Buy, work at Target, and these big companies. Yes, they're getting paid by whatever the name of the staffing agency is, but they're getting experiences with those companies. So they're really multifaceted. You can get you a quick short-term job with locally, maybe it's warehouse, or you can actually get practical experience in the fields that you're interested in. And you don't have that same time commitment. And I know with the college students, they're like, oh my God, a full-time job. I don't know if I can handle that. But you might be able to handle maybe a couple of months. Maybe you can handle 6 months, maybe just the summer, maybe just the winter. And so I just really advocate for staffing agencies, because they're another source to get you a job somehow. So.
All right, some unique housing options. To be volunteer firefighter in Mankato, you get a residence, and in exchange for rent, you're a firefighter. That's the exchange for rent. And then there's also a church nearby that does provide housing to members of the church. And then 1 year it's for women and 1 year it's for men. And so that kind of changes. And so there's some options there, but that might be something too, where you get the word out to folks if you're looking for housing. I think our slides got a little out of order, which is why that felt maybe a little disjointed, but oh, did we cut? Okay, so what questions do folks have? Okay, I see what happened. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Does anyone have questions or want to continue on the think tank?
Healthcare wise, health services, has super cheap over-the-counter medication, like half the cost of what it is at Walgreens or CVS. So I definitely, and it's the good stuff. So they have, lots of over-the-counter options right here on campus. And those can be, you can pay for them, or they can be billed to your student account. You're still responsible financially for them, but that's an option where if you don't have cash on hand or a debit card. And then Open Door Health Center does have sliding scale support that they provide for healthcare. And then one tip is that going to urgent care
Yes.
versus the emergency room.
Yes, so a lot of students, you have an unexpected illness, you get hurt, and their first thought is to go to the emergency room. The emergency room is a couple $1,000s sometimes. Sometimes it can be cheap, but that is really expensive and not that affordable, especially when some people don't have insurance, or their insurance isn't that good, or they just don't have it at all. And so another alternative is going to the urgent care. Urgent care, if you're, you think you got a cold, or you think like just minor things, like if nothing's like coming out of you, you could probably go to urgent care, right? Maybe like there's not a bone or anything. But urgent care is a lot more affordable. There's not one real close to the mall. I think it's the Mankato Clinic's urgent care. And that is an option where your bill is not going to be ranked up as high. And especially, with like international students too, just because, they do have the insurance that comes with the university, and they have access to student health services, but then, they're not, whatever their insurance back home, it might not apply here. And so they might go to the emergency room, or maybe your students, but that's really expensive. I personally still got a bill from the emergency room when I was in college that I was forgetting about because of HIPAA, and HIPAA don't say nothing to credit card companies. But yes, and so that was an expensive thing, and I make little payments, but I'm like, man, when I was a student, I wish I didn't go to the emergency room. I wish I would have went to urgent care, because that bill would have been significantly reduced. And so think about urgent cares. There's also like minute clinics, or there's another word for minute clinics that do something like, maybe you got, I don't know, pink eye or something really minor. Maybe you just need to get a flu shot or something. CVS's, I don't know if the one by campus has it, but there are some like stores like that will have like a little minute clinic. I know the Hy-Vee by where I live has like a minute style clinic, but I don't know about the one here in Mankato. And that's even cheaper because it's helping, and it can get you help in that moment. Maybe you need to get your different vaccines, or maybe you need to get a different immunizations. Like I know a lot of students need immunization records in order to be here, make sure they have all that stuff, and maybe you're missing one. They can definitely help out with that as well. Or maybe you got children who play sports or something. There are a lot of different options instead of going all the way straight to the emergency room, so that it can just be more affordable for you. Because we don't want you to have that big bill.
Just a couple more to add to the list. I came and learned a lot just adding something I've heard. That the Salvation Army actually offers gas assistance and utility assistance for anyone who needs help, as well as some basic needs. And then there's also other pantries in the event that like maybe have already exhausted the campus cover, and then you've done the food pantry. There's other food pantries in town too to help out with that too. So that way you can get support from all of them if you want to add to it. So.
Well, going off of that too, there's the Minnesota Action
Minnesota Valley Action, yep.
Yes, and they sometimes can help with maybe auto, helping you find a car, and other assistance as well. There's a lot of things to know, and it's almost too much to know when you're looking for resources and how to get help. But yeah, and that's for the Southern Minnesota, which is the MNPAC?
MVAC.
MVAC, yes.
Yep. Are there specific questions that people have that we didn't address? Next week, we will have a session that's a little more focused on the behind the scenes part of the Bridge to Benefits assessment, as well as SNAP, so Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is that grocery money that we were talking about. So if you are working with students, if you yourself just want a little more information, everyone's welcome to that event. That'll be on the 15th in 238, I think, which is just down here on the corner. So please, be sure to check that out. Thank you for your participation in the Maverick Diversity Institute. We are getting a LinkedIn badge for people who attend 4 or more sessions in a year. We can do it by semester if people are feeling really extra. If you do if you do 6 or more as a student in an academic year, you'll get a sweatshirt. I forgot to wear mine. It'd be too many layers today, but they're zippy, they're cute, they're like heather purple. And so your participation in these events is really important as we're serving one another, as we're learning more about ourselves. And so I just encourage you to stay in touch. If you have questions, you can email diversityinstitute@mnsu.edu. But thank you all so much for your time today.